right, so we're going to be talking about the 1-to-4 contract today. We're also going to cover some of the changes that'll probably be effective in August of this year, since the broker lawyer committee met last week, I'm sorry, and then they'll go to the full TREC commission. I think they're meeting in May. So they'll approve it, and then right now it says August 19th. We'll see. No changes yet, but they're coming. And for the 1-to-4, there's not really no big changes on it. The third-party financing, though, there is big changes to that. And they've changed every other contract, by the way. All right, if you're on Zoom, you need to have your cameras on. It's just like being in class. No driving. It's against the state law. And mute yourself if you're not asking a question. All right, is everybody familiar with TCPA? Is everybody familiar with do not call? Okay, and that applies for telephone calls and text messaging. You need to have written permission or permission from them to make any calls. The first of this month, there was a federal suit filed against Keller Williams, The Woodlands, and one of their agents for texting someone on the do not call list twice. He's asking for class action status. The fines can be between $500 and $1,500 per call, per text. And that's just at first. They go up. State of Texas, it's 5,000 and something. Federal, it's 10,000 per incident. And guess what? There's hardly no defense against it. And with our policies and procedures, it is totally on the agent, to whoever is making that phone call, to make sure you're not violating do not call. Scare you enough? Okay. Right. Oh, yeah. So it's just make sure you're checking the do not call list if you don't have a business relationship with somebody. Not your friend, yes. And even be careful with some of your friends. Yeah. Because sometimes you can get, okay, we're friends, but I don't want you soliciting me for business. Right. Compliance 401, residential 1-to-4. The one we're looking at right now is the one from November 8th of 2022. Said earlier, it's probably going to change this year. Okay, a couple of questions. How are days counted in the TREC contract? Is it calendar days or calendar days with no weekends or holidays? No weekends or holidays? You're right. It is calendar days. Yes. You're probably it gets people confused when you talk about the earnest money and option money deposit, but everything else is counted by calendar days. If the refrigerator is listed on the MLS as included, but it's not listed on the contract, does it stay? No, the MLS is non-binding. So if you want it, you better put it on a non-realty addendum, and you better be specific also. Last year, we had a buyer very upset, and the seller said, I don't care. They left the refrigerator in the garage because the non-realty said the refrigerator. So they took the stainless steel, nice one that was in the kitchen, and left one in the garage because the agent was not specific. If it's on the non-realty addendum. Remember, refrigerator, washer and dryer are personal property. We'll go over that in paragraph 2A and B. Right, paragraph 5, it talks about the escrow agent. Who is the escrow agent? Would it be Liz Smith, because she's the one that's going to be doing the documentation? Liz Smith, she's the person I use to review all closing forms and go over with the buyers. Liz Smith from Somewhere Title, or is it just Somewhere Title? The escrow agent. Somewhere Title. It's always going to be your title company or the entity that is holding the earnest money in trust for the completion of a contract. Liz Smith, she's probably going to be your escrow officer. She's not taking responsibility for that money. She's not holding it for them. And if something happens to Liz Smith, like she gets fired or she dies, do you still have a contract? Judge said no. No, you should have never put their name on it. It should always be just the title company. Yeah, it's not as big a deal as long as it's like Somewhere Title Liz Smith. But I prefer just the title company's name. If a contract is executed on Thursday, when is the earnest money and option fee due? Going to be Monday. You're right. If the third day falls on a weekend or a holiday, then it moves to the next business day. If you were selling a triplex, commercial property, what contract would you use? A commercial property improved because this allows it to be rented. The TXR multiple units contract or the TXR 1-to-4 contract. It's the 1-to-4. Yeah, it's 1 unit up to 4 units. You go above 4 units, then it's going to be a commercial contract. Yeah, that would be multiple. That would be a commercial. If a contract is executed on Saturday and Monday is a legal holiday, when is the earnest money and option due? Monday, Sunday, Tuesday, or Wednesday? Executed on Saturday. Monday's a holiday. Monday's a holiday, yeah. It's going to be Tuesday. We executed on Saturday. Sunday's day 1. Monday's day 2. It doesn't matter if it's a holiday because you still count it. So day 3 is going to be Tuesday. That's when the earnest money is due. What time is it due by? 11:59 p.m. There's only one place in the contract where it has a time, and that's going to be termination of option. Yeah, otherwise it's 11:59 p.m. So many title companies now have their own apps, so you can wire money or they can send money after close of business. Paragraph 22 in the contract is for addenda. So which one of these would be attached in paragraph 22? The municipal utility district, HOA, sale of other property by the buyer, addendum for a backup or IABS. So C and D, that's it. The rest of them are disclosures or information. They don't go in that paragraph. Do you have a contract if the buyer never deposits the earnest money? Yes. The buyer could be in default if they haven't deposited the earnest money and the option money, but you still have a contract. This is the only place where a seller has the right to terminate the contract, is when it's not delivered. If you want to extend an option period because the gas was not on at the time of the inspection, can the buyer do this without paying any type of fee for it? Nope. An option is defined in the state of Texas, and there must be consideration for it. It doesn't matter whose fault it is, because what is an option period? Exclusive right to back out of the contract. Exclusive right. And now we're right. On the listing, it says that they will have all utilities on for the whole time it's in escrow. So the seller couldn't be in default, but you know who determines if someone's in default? The judge. Yep, not us. So yeah, so no, if you want to extend it because of that, you pay for it. Yes, ma'am. No, I don't believe so. I'd have to look at the law. Well, if they do, they have to have an opt-out option on the email. All right, it's the law. Texas Real Estate License Act, rules related to contracts. The commission may adopt rules for public best interest that require license holders to use contract forms prepared by TREC. The commission may not prohibit a license holder from using for the sale, exchange, option, or lease of an interest in the real property, a contract form that is prepared by the property owner themselves or prepared by their attorney. So we have to use the contracts the TREC promulgated. Who else has the right to use them? Anybody. Yeah, those were done for the public. The citizens of the, well, anybody in the state of Texas can use that. We have to use them, and best practice would be for them to have an agent. Grounds for suspension or revocation of your license using an outdated form. They consider it acting negligently or incompetently. And unfortunately, we still have people that are submitting seller's disclosures that are on the old form, and it's going on 2 years. It is the buyer and the seller's agent that are responsible. So if you're on the buyer side and you get a form that's on an old edition, you need to be sending it back. Say, this is a repealed form. It's going to be real important they're on this year because the forms are going to change. The listing agreement and the buyer's representation agreement are also changing. They're in the process of rewriting those now, and they will be out before October to be in line with the settlement. With the setup, they're supposed to be submitting it to the court the first part of May, and then we have 150 days to put it into practice. And then there'll probably be a hearing on it somewhere to the end of the year, which they'll totally accept it, which we expect they will. Still looking at what the DOJ may have in mind. But let's take a look at the 1 to 4. You have any questions about everything else we've gone over? Just watch that upper corner. 11.7.22 is the edition that we're using at the moment. All right, so paragraph 1, who are the parties to the contract? The buyers and the sellers. Who's not a party to the contract? Us. Sometimes agents forget that. It's not our contract. Okay, so I'm going to hop right over here. I pulled up a tax record. When you go to the tax record, it's going to show you who the owners are. Remember that it's last name first, so you're going to want to flip it. So this property belongs to Mitchell W. Rainey Jr. That's important to have it on there, and Daniel DiDonato. Those are going to be your sellers. If you get something there, they're telling you that's not the seller, you need to get documentation. Right now, there's a lot of issues with fraud, and there's been a lot of issues lately with leases. People saying they're the owner of the property, they're leasing it, they're getting the money and everything for it, and they don't own it. And I think too often we bypass double checking everything. If it says it is owned by an LLC or some type of entity, what does an LLC or an entity not have that is required when you try to sign something? Hands. Yeah. Can I call ABC LLC and have them walk in here? No, it's going to be someone who has the responsibility for that. When you put it on your contracts, it would be ABC LLC, signatory or president, whatever it is, Mitchell Rainey. If you're the listing agent, make sure that you know who that person is or persons. Sometimes there's multiple people that have to sign, and you don't want to be in a situation like they were at another KW when they get to escrow and they say, stop, according to the documentation, there's 3 people that have to agree to sell this property, and only one has signed. They contacted the other 2 and they had no clue anything was going on. And they said, no, we're not selling the property. They were already under contract to sell that property. So if you're under contract, you have a buyer's agent who's brought a willing, able, qualified buyer, and they find out that you didn't do your due diligence, you still owe them the commission. Do the due diligence. The name of the person that's signing. Yeah, because it always, the signatures and initials always going to be of a person. And you can, with Dahlub and everything, you can actually have it, signatory, whatever. And plus, it gives you a nice way to know who to talk to. So the property, what's the legal description of the property? Yeah, for this property, it's Lot 12, Block 1, River Park West, Section 6. You must have that Section 6 on there. There could be multiple Lot 1s, Lot 12, Block 1s in that area. And I can tell you, if you try to research Lot 1, Block 12, Houston, you ain't going to find nothing. There's going to be hundreds and hundreds of them. So whatever is in legal description needs to be completely on paragraph 2. If it is too big to go on here, you can put special provisions, paragraph 11, and write it out there. Sometimes lately we've had a couple of these where they're selling 2 lots adjacent to each other, but they both have different legal descriptions, but they're being sold as one. So you could put both of those in special provisions. We have one that they're selling the house and they own the lot next door, but they never had it combined. Right, and then what city is the property in? Must have the name of the county. That was something else I was told by a lawyer, a judge, kicked out because it didn't have the county. And then the street address. How do you get there? How do you find that property? Any questions about those parts? Yes, sir. Yeah, whatever the street address is. On this one, it's 21751 Cozy Hollow Lane. Yeah. Richmond, Texas is already on there. Okay. You mean if you're, it's up to you. Usually LN is abbreviation, normal abbreviation for lane. No, I haven't seen anything where it says it's that big of a deal. Like the difference between road and street. And while we're on here on the tax record, go ahead and go down to jurisdictions. We want to know if this property is in some type of water district. And this one is in Fort Bend Mud 121. That we know because it's a water district is going to have disclosures.
Mitch, one question, and now that we're here and we're in the 1 to 4 contract class, I have a client that gave me her name and her last name.
Yes.
But not her middle name. So I started all documents with her name and last name, but not middle name. Now we receive HOA documents where we put a 1 to 4 offer with the name and the last name, not the middle name. Do we need to do an amendment and put the middle name in if she wants that?
If she wants it, yes, you do an amendment. If you don't, at title, at closing, they're going to do a form for aliases. So
okay.
There
but if she likes to do I need to do that, since we have an executed contract? Do I need to do an amendment if she wants a middle name, or is it better just to do a title?
If
So
she wants it, don't make a big deal out of it. Client
awesome.
wants to go ahead and do it.
Awesome. So because the lending, it's coming with that, and she
With
said
them.
it would be good. Awesome.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
perfect. Yeah, and when you're doing like this one, and everyone knows me as Mitch. You want to make sure you're writing down the legal name, whatever they're going to be using for buyers, whatever ID they're going to be taking to closing, make sure they match. And they will do an alias form. All right, paragraph 2B, improvements. And these are things that are staying on the house. They're things that are attached to the home that you would have to remove something else to take it out, or you're going to leave scars on the home. So it's with these permanently installed and built-in items. All equipment, appliances, valances, screens, shutters, awnings, water wall carpeting, mirrors, ceiling fans, attic fans. One of these. Okay. Where we have issues. Ceiling fans. People buy a new ceiling fan. They want it. They want to take it with them. If it's attached to the house, it stays. Televisions. Television, personal property. What's attached to the building, to the structure, is an attachment and it's improvement. So it's going to stay. Yes, sir. Yes. Oh, in the listing class, we talk about that. If you come over and they say, I want to take this fan, my best top suggestion is going to be go ahead and remove it and replace it now before you start marketing it. It helps in two different ways. You don't have to have a buyer's agent that's coming in and saying, no, that's excluded. No, that's excluded. Plus, it's controlling the cost. Is if I'm the buyer and you say you're going to take this fan that is remote control, multiple speeds and everything, am I going to say, go to Home Depot and get something? Or am I going to give you a model number that I want put up there? Guess which one's going to cost more? Yeah. Yep. I went into a home showing a property, and when you walked in, both sides of the entry, there was two big potted plants, been there forever. I knew that because the hardwoods were black and warped all the way around it. Was it an objection for my buyers? No. And you know why? Because when we opened up the door on this wall, there was 3 pieces of hardwood, and it said, which one would look best in your new home? So the sellers were already identifying that objection and saying, these are the things that we would replace it with. Controlling the cost and taking care of that objection before it ever was an objection. The brackets for speakers also stay. Lighting fixtures and chandeliers. Those are other things that people like to keep. Best practice is if your listing agent have it removed. Water softener systems, kitchen equipment, garage door openers, cleaning equipment. This is not your Electrolux. It's going to be things that are built into the property. Have you all been in properties that have the vacuum throughout the home? Aren't those nice? No, this is something like it's on the baseboard. And so you can sweep, and when you get up there, you can open it up and it sucks it into the garage. Oh yeah, it's really cool. All right. Shrubbery, landscaping, stay. So your bird baths, your statuary, your garden bricks and stuff to line the gardens, those all stay. So do all the shrubbery and trees. Bird baths also. Yeah, that says it stays. It's part of, so if they want to take it away. Mhm. You don't think a lot about shrubbery, but there's been several issues with shrubbery. So they come and they see a house, and when they go to or do the walkthrough, the 2 trees in the front yard have been removed. Yeah. Now this came up last year when it was so hot. When you purchase the properties, when you make the offer in the house, when you purchase it at closing, everything needs to be the same. We had some bad droughts last year, so a lot of the shrubbery was dead. And there were buyers that were like, nope, you need to have that back the way it was when I bought the property. The main ones I had seen, they just weren't taking care of it. All right, accessories. Following describe related accessories. These are things that help you protect the house or enjoy the house once you move in. Air conditioning units, these are going to be the window units. Stoves, fireplace screens, that's for safety. Curtains and rods, blinds, window shades, draperies and rods. Curtains and rods and drapery and rods are where we have issues. You go through a walkthrough and they're gone. Best practice, when you get a buyer, you go over these paragraphs. It's in the buyer's representation agreement, and you go over them with the listing. So at least right now, when you're talking to them, they know these things are going to stay. And then you're going to go over it here. So 3 times you're reminding them, you can't take that unless. Oh, other improvements, accessories, controls include seller transferable rights to software application used to access controls. Hardware used solely to control. On my phone, I can turn my hot tub on from here at the house, here at work. So it's nice and hot when I get home. So I have to give that transferable rights to the buyer. You have apps where you can open your garage door from your phone. All those type of apps have to be transferred at closing. And then D is exclusion. So anything up here that the seller is going to take with them, you want to put in exclusions. Check the MLS and speak to the listing agent. They're supposed to be listed on the MLS, but if they're not, check the attachments also. I've seen them there. You're going to write them here. With them being there, like if it's a ceiling fan, they say they're going to remove. When we get to the paragraph where it says, accept property as is, provided seller at seller's cost shall replace the ceiling fan with this model number or something. We had a buyer very upset. There was an exclusion for the fan in the living room, but all they did was take it. So there was the electrical lines hanging, as the agent did not write to have it replaced. Paragraph E is going to be reservation for oil and gas. And that's going to be on a separate addenda. And then we come to the sales price. How much money is that buyer bringing to closing? What's going to be their down payment? When they say cash, does not include proceeds from borrowing of any kind or selling of other real property except as disclosed in this contract. This was put in because of hard money loans. Everyone used to say it was cash, but it truly isn't, because they're still getting it from someone else. You know, if I'm getting 50,000 from my parents, it's not cash that I have, or I'm going to sell stocks. That is actually cash in hand. Then B is going to be any type of financing, third-party financing, seller's financing, loan assumption. And then C is the total price. So A plus B equals C. Be careful when you're typing, you don't hit a period when you meant to hit a comma, because that $500,000 home just became a $500 home. Happened on an amendment. Luckily, they had very good buyers who were willing to correct it. Otherwise, they would have been bringing $500 cash to the closing and own the home. Leases. So paragraph 4 is going to be leases. Want to check section 1 of the seller's disclosure. On there, it has satellite dish, solar panels, water softeners, and security systems. It'll say owned or leased. If it says leased, you have to put it in the contract. If there is somebody renting the home when you're making the offer, when you're executing a contract, you must do the residential lease, even though that seller has told you they're moving out the end of this month. What if they don't? Suddenly your buyer is a landlord when they were expecting to have a new home. Fixture leases, any of those items that are checked in paragraph 1 or section 1 of the seller's disclosure, you're going to do a fixture lease. And that's going to be the Texas 1954. And then you have natural leases. Natural resource leases means existing oil, gas, mineral, and they're adding geothermal. That is one of the changes to the contract. Most of the time it is. I see it once in a while, and it's normally properties that are outside of like the downtown area or outside of established subdivisions. Most of the time the seller doesn't have the rights. If they do, then as a buyer's agent, you're going to be asking a lot more questions. They may be giving that new buyer 100% of their mineral rights, but the mineral rights started out 100% with the original owner. Then you get the developer who got 50% of those, and then he sold them and he gave 50%. So now they're down to 25%. And then this person's selling them, they're going to give 50% of what they own. So this buyer is actually purchasing whatever half of 25 is. So you see, it can be misleading. 2.5. Yeah. Yeah. It can be misleading. So they're going to want to get that information. A lot of times, if it's mineral rights, they may have to do a search. It may take a little bit more time for closing. With the natural resources lease, has the seller delivered to the buyer the lease? Seller has not delivered. How long do they have to get it to them? Probably not going to run into that very often. No, this is going to be if there's a tenant in the home. So it's already a rental property. Okay. Leasebacks is a different paragraph. Yeah. Well, it's supposed to be showable at reasonable times. So it's going to be whatever the landlord owner and the tenant have agreed to as reasonable times. With something like that, you're going to do the residential lease, Texas 1953. With fixture leases, you're going to want to do a little bit more research on them. Are they truly a lease? A lot of times I see security systems and they're marked as leased, but truly what the owner is doing is paying for monitoring. I own the equipment that's on the wall and in the house. What I'm paying monthly is the service for it, someone to monitor it. Solar panels. And surprisingly, those have come up 3 times in the last probably 10 days. So I took a class on them, and I've got a new checklist for you to look at, and we'll be doing a class on that. It is something else. Yay. Okay. Have you? There's a lot of things you need to ask. A lot of things that need to be cleared up before you go into a contract with solar panels. Not necessarily. Yeah, you're going to want to check out warranties. You're going to want to see, did they purchase batteries to go with those solar panels? Because you don't have to. They talk about tax credits. Not necessarily. especially if you're purchasing it. When they talk about the electric companies buying back the excess, no. There's only a couple of companies that do it, and they change regularly, and they're not going to send them a check. They're going to give them credit off of their utility bills. The batteries for solar panels, they last about 5 to 10 years, and they're between $13,000 and $20,000 to replace them. That's why that's where they store the electricity for those days when everything goes down. And you're going to want to find out all of the things for your buyer and let them know, if we have a hurricane and we lose our electricity, those solar panels are probably only going to work for about, if they're recharging regularly, but you're going to be able to run maybe your air conditioner, your refrigerator. Don't use your microwave. They pull a lot of electricity. So quickly deplete that. It's not like having Generex generator outside that's going to have more juice. But watch, we'll be doing a class on that. Okay, paragraph 5, earnest money and termination of option. Who's the escrow agent? Title company. Yeah, title company. Maybe a lawyer. If you're closing at a lawyer's office, rare that we see those. So the name of the title company, the address, and then you've got a place here for earnest money. What is earnest money? How would you describe earnest money? Show that you're serious. Yeah. Yeah. It's also skin in the game. I'm willing as a buyer to risk this much money. How much is it normally? It's negotiable. Normally we see about 1.5%. And then you have the option fee. Option fee is negotiable. Don't insult the seller though. When you're buying a $500,000 home and you're going to offer $10 a day for them to take it off the market. Ha, ha, ha. Yeah. Now, right here is a place that you can start negotiating without touching paragraph 3. Most people do 1%. Does it look a little bit better if you do 1.5% or 2%? Yeah. If everyone's doing $20 a day for 10 days and you do $250 or $300 for 7 days, do you look a little bit better than that other person you're in a multiple offer situation with? A little bit. You got to take all of these into consideration. 5.1 is additional earnest money. So maybe you did put 1% in the first line, and then here you decide you're going to do another 1% after 10 days. It's again showing that seller that you're really interested in the property, and I'm willing to risk a little bit more. I'm putting a little bit more skin in the game. And I usually say 10 days because what's normal? Option period. Yeah, so right after your option period's ending, you go ahead and make that second deposit. When you get to these paragraphs, be careful. I have seen in earnest money $500, and I've seen in option money $5,000. And when that buyer terminate the contract during the option period, they were calling us livid because he was the one his $5,000 back, because the way it was written, all he was due back was $500. Watch how you write those. Have them in the right place. I've also seen where people overthink it and they'll put the earnest money here and then they'll put the same amount here. Well, no, this is additional. So if you're going to put down additional money, it'd be there. If the last day to deliver the earnest money, option money, falls on a holiday or legal Saturday or Sunday, then it's the next business day. We talked about that already. The amounts escrow agents receive in the paragraph shall be applied first to the option fee, then to earnest money. If you have, let's say, $1,000 earnest and you're doing 500 option, and that buyer sends in $1,000, 500 of that right away is going to go to the option. They're always going to take the option out first. So that buyer is still short $500. The title company is going to protect the option, period. For the buyer, the seller can actually request the option money. They deliver it and that seller can say, title company, I want you to write me a check for that. They have the right to do that. 9 out of 10 times don't, because it's credited back at closing. Termination option for a nominal consideration, the receipt of which seller acknowledges, and buyer agreement to pay the option fee within the time required. Seller grants buyer the unrestricted right to terminate this contract by giving notice of termination to the seller within how many days? You all decide that. And this is the only place in the contract where it says 5 p.m. That was a nice change. Was anyone in the business before they made the change? Used to be when? It was the addition before this one. So 2020 or 2021? May have even been earlier than that. It used to be that as an agent, if you were the buyer's agent, you were going to get a cashier's check from the buyer for the earnest money and for the option. Then it was your responsibility to take that earnest money to the title company and take that option money to the seller or to the listing agent. And then since it wasn't 5 p.m., you'd be negotiating right up to 11 o'clock p.m. trying to get things worked out. So I'm glad they moved it up to 5 p.m. At 1,700 hours. If they do not give the option, all they've done is not purchase the exclusive right to back out of the contract. Failure to timely deliver earnest money, buyer fails to deliver earnest money, they could be in default of the paragraph of the contract. The seller has the right to terminate the contract before the earnest money is delivered, or they can go to paragraph 15 and the remedies there, which are sue them for a specific performance. Yeah. Yes. You still negotiate. I mean, you're still going to negotiate in good faith. It's just buyer is not holding as many cards at that point. While you're in the option, the buyer has the cards. They can back out. Once after that, then it's more of a negotiation. What do you do during the option period? Maybe not appraisal. Yeah, unless you're doing the appraisal addendum, it has to be done quick. But yeah. You're going to want to do it during the option period. They need to be getting their inspections. They need to get their insurance binder. So go into an insurance company and the insurance company is going to look at the property and say, your insurance is going to be this much, or you're buying in this neighborhood. So you're going to need home insurance, wind insurance, and flood insurance. Is the house has to be insurable. Doesn't have to be at a price that buyer is willing to live with. They could still qualify for the home, but let's say it's more than what they want to pay on a monthly basis. Had that happen in Brazoria County, where we wrote an offer on a property, and there's a line someplace where this side of the street you did not have to have wind insurance, but the side of the street that we wrote an offer on, you had to have wind insurance. I always knew there was a line. It's just weird to actually get it. And they could get the insurance, but it was more than what my buyers wanted to pay for insurance. So we were able to back out during the option period for any reason. Yeah, exactly. That's when you get back up here to paragraph 4, leases. Their choice. I would. Yeah. Same as you get to clients that don't want an option period. Put it in writing that they chose, you inform them and they chose not to get an option period, or you told them the benefits of having home insurance and they say no. Or if they're paying cash, get an appraisal. It's not required with cash, but they still may want one because they want to know if they're going into a house upside down or with some type of equity. And it has on E, 5E, time is of the essence. This paragraph is strict compliance. You have to deliver the earnest money and option money. And if you're going to terminate on the option period, it has to be done by 5 p.m. on whichever, if you put 10 days, 10 days. And remember, we always count by calendar days. Any questions about paragraph 5? Yes, sir. Yeah. Yeah, normally, because the buyer's going to have to pay for that, and they don't want them paying for it if they terminate during the option period. Sometimes they even wait till after the finance period also. Buyer isn't inclined, but when you do the appraisal form, that's so they can back out. In there, it has a number of days, and a lot of people think it's from the execution date. So if they put 20 days in there, you need to get that appraisal ordered. If you wait till after the option period, now you're at day 11. You only have 9 more days to be able to get an appraiser out there, and if it falls on a weekend, suddenly you don't have the right to back out based on the appraisal. Paragraph 6 is going to be title policy and survey. Who's going to pay for title? It's going to be the seller or the buyer. Negotiable. What happens if the buyer pays for the appraisal? I mean, for the title. Does it make your contract, your offer look a little bit better than the next one? What if you split it 50-50? That can be done. Yeah. Oh, they can. Did you put it in paragraph 11, special provisions, how to split it? Yep. So you write it, because when we get to paragraph 11, we'll talk about it a little bit more. But there you can write things to complete another paragraph. So if you have both boxes checked, 50-50, or maybe it's going to be 70-30, however you've negotiated it. With title, the leverage may be that you use the title company that you like. If the seller's paying it for it, they may say you're going to use First American Title. If you're splitting it, you have a little bit more, but really don't make the title company a big issue unless it's a title company you've had personal experience with that was horrible. Otherwise, the fees are going to be the same because they're set by the state. The one I worked with in Cold Springs, Texas, it did not fund. When I called her asking about it, she said, "Don't worry, I've already given them the keys so they can go to the house." Well, they didn't own the house. So if anything happened while they were there, the seller was responsible for it. They burned it down. The seller was responsible until it funded. That was a bad experience. All right, y'all know what a title policy is? Jocelyn's back there. Pretty much. That's it. What they do is they're going to go back to the sovereignty of the property as far back as they can. They're looking for clouds. They're looking to see if we were married and we're divorced, does she have any right to the property? Maybe I passed away intestate, no will. So they're going to have to research who the heirs to this property could be. They're also going to identify any liens that are on the property and know that they're going to be able to pay off at closing or before. When we purchased our property in New Mexico, it's a great read because they were able to go back to the sovereignty of the property, which was the King of Spain when he granted it to the first owner. And this was before the Mayflower and all the way down to us. So if you're a history buff, it was really, really cool. I don't know. It's amazing they were able to get them. Now, you can object to certain things except for restricted covenants common to the platted subdivision. You can't purchase a property and then say, no, I object to this. Well, it's for everybody. Standard printer exceptions, standby fees, taxes, and assessments, liens created as part of this financing, utility easements, reservations or exceptions authorized, permitted by this contract, standard printed exceptions as to marital rights, standard printed exceptions as to discrepancies, conflicts, shortages of area, boundary encroachments, protrusions, or overlapping improvements. Y'all know what an insurance rider is? You can get a rider like on your home insurance to cover your pool. Yeah. Same thing, same stuff. You can do a rider for artwork for your home insurance. This is a rider to your title insurance. No, this is saying that if somewhere in the future they find out that there was an encroachment on the property, let's say maybe when they built the fence, it was 1 foot over. So my property is 1 foot over onto my neighbor's. If it's not discovered, it's discovered later. If they've chosen 8.2 will be amended to read shortages in area, they could go back to the title company and say, hey, my neighbor wants their 1 foot. You insure it. So they're going to work to make that right. Mostly. Yeah. Yeah. That's a very simple explanation. There's other things that could go into it. It's very inexpensive, like 1%, 5% of the total. Yeah, and it's on the premium for the insurance. I think it's worth it. If I buy a property, I would want that. It depends on the price of the property also. Yeah, so it's really low for what you get. When I purchased my first property, they let us know that the fence was 1 foot off the entire block. So when they built this one, it was 1 foot over, and of course it was just the same way all the way down. So if you got someone that moved in that said, no, I want the 1 foot over here, I don't want the 1 foot over there, then title would be the one to take care of that. You're going to check 8 or 2. And then who's going to pay for it? Again, if you're in a multiple offer situation, or maybe you're going low ball, you don't want to nickel and dime a seller. This came up this week. Title commitment. Title company has 20 days to get you the title commitment. But if they don't, they get another 15 days. If you ever are in a transaction and it's taken more than a week, 12 days to get a title commitment, there's probably something on that title, something on the commitment that they're worried about. And then the survey. You're going to get a title commitment, and it's going to be in there. If you're working with a good title company you have a relationship with, they're probably going to point it out to you. You know, there is a tax lien on this property, or there's a mechanics lien on this property. And they're going to be talking to the seller to make sure the seller can clear those liens at closing. Where we've had issues lately is a $45,000 lien on the house for the solar panels. $35,000 lien on the property for the solar panels. They couldn't afford to pay them off. The last one we had, it was $20,000, and the seller wanted the buyer to pay the $20,000 to clear the lien before closing. Right. That's a lot of money they have to come up with. Yeah, so solar panels. And I didn't know this until I took the class. Even if they're leasing the solar panels, sometimes they put a lien on the house for the lease. Those are things you're going to need to check out, especially if you're the listing agent. Fun yet? Yeah, oh yeah. If someone asks you about putting solar panels on their house, a lot of things they need to think at beforehand. My aunt called me, and before she even got it out, it's like, no. Yeah, no. Yeah. I didn't know also that sometimes when you put solar panels on, you can't get insurance cover for the roof. Yes, you want to have the solar panels and the roof need to be about the same age. Bum, bum, bum. Okay, C, survey. Survey must be made by a registered professional, yada, 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 yada. One, within blank days after, I'm going to actually flip over because it's changing. Blank day after, within, normally it's 2 to 3 days, we'll see. After the effective date of this contract, seller shall furnish to buyer and title company seller's existing survey of the property and a residential real property affidavit or declaration is what they're adding to this. So both of those have to come together. I'm not sure. Yeah, I would imagine something maybe from a lawyer that's saying, instead of using the T-47 and saying nothing has changed, it's a declaration coming from a legal source. Nothing has changed. Buyer shall obtain it if they fail to deliver it. Let's say it's day 4, they haven't given the seller the survey and the T-47 or the declaration. Buyer shall obtain a new survey at seller's expense no later than 3 days prior to closing. If they don't give it, it's a new survey, seller's expense. If seller fails to furnish within the time, this is the new stuff. If seller fails to furnish within the time prescribed, both the 1 existing survey, 2 affidavit of declaration. If the title company or buyer's lender does not accept the existing survey or the affidavit, then it talks about who's going to pay for it. But first off, you have to give it within the days prescribed. If you don't, new survey, seller's expense. You give it, and the title company or the lender says, well, wait a minute, this survey doesn't have that swimming pool, so I'm not going to accept it. And then this is when it comes in, who's going to pay for it. I've always gone with seller. They're providing it. I think it should be a good one. That is a new version. They just kind of clarified it a little bit, letting them know that you have to get both seller's survey and the T-47 or the declaration. T-47 says it has to be notarized. So if they delivered it, it's not notarized, they have not done it properly. Buyer can get a new survey. Has to be both on both of them. Now with the survey, my feeling and of most people, or definitely Keller Williams, a buyer should get a new survey. Yeah. If it is an existing survey, Seller, it needs to be their survey to begin with. Someone called me today and they want to use the one that was used actually, with counting the one now, 3 owners ago. Oh, no, it's supposed to be your survey. And also you want to make sure it's not copyrighted. And a lot of surveys are copyrighted now. So they're saying you can't share that. Otherwise, you're copyright infringement. Oh. Yeah. Yeah, you don't want anything where they're going to have to go back and do some bunch of changes. If I can just go to the next one. Okay, number 2 here is within how many days? 14 to 21 days is good range to go with. Buyer shall obtain a new survey at buyer's expense. Buyers deemed to receive the survey on the date of actual receipt or the date specified in this paragraph, whichever is earlier. Yeah, yeah. It's just who's going to pay for it. Is it going to be the buyer or is it going to be the seller? And what are they now? About 800, 750, 800? Right. Give them enough time to be able to get the surveyor out there and get it done and back. Number 3, within how many days of the effective date, seller's going to get it and seller's going to pay for it. Now, objections. Buyer may object in writing to defects, exceptions, or encumbrances to title disclosed on the survey or other items, except for these items that we talked about earlier in 6A, the restrictive covenants that are set already. Or the following activity or use. You don't have to put residential on here. What type of contract are we writing? A 1-to-4 residential. So doesn't that mean you're going to use it for residential? This is going to be if they want to use it for something else. Let's say short-term rentals. They need to check to make sure that those are even allowed, either by the HOA docs or by other things. Let's say they want to park an 18-wheeler. Is that allowed? Raise chickens. Anything they're going to do outside of strictly residential, if they're going to use it for even long-term rentals or run a business, those are not allowed. But that is something that's a make or break for the buyer. They can object to that, or you can just leave it blank. Now, buyer must object earlier of the closing date or number 2, number of days. If you're a buyer's agent and you send a contract to me for compliance and there is nothing in this line, I'm going to say compliance met. If you're the agent and you send it to me and there's nothing in this line, I'm going to say non-compliant. So our fiduciary at that point is to that seller, and it's not fiduciary to the seller for that buyer to have up until the day of closing to say, I don't like this and I object to it, and stop everything. But give it enough time. I know most people put 2 or 3 days in there, 7, 9 days. What if there's something they need to do some research on, or they need to talk to a lawyer about before they object? Give them enough time to review everything. Right now, we have one where they got the survey back and the, what was it? The property is over the build line. It was built like 1 foot over the build line, and they're objecting to that. But they put it in writing to the listing agent, to the seller. The seller will then have a cure period within 15 days after they receive the objection. With the one we're talking about, they're going to have to go to the, I think it's going to be the subdivision and to the city to get a variance for it. It'll probably take more than the 15 days. If objections are not cured within the cure period, buyer may extend closing as necessary. They can terminate the contract. Once it is cured, let's say they get those objections handled, then the buyer has another 5 days to make sure that it was done right. Otherwise, they're gonna terminate, walk away, get their earnest money back. No, there's I thought there was something in here about there's what? There's a lot of jargon there. Yeah, if it's going to cost the seller so much to cure that, they can say we can't cure it. Yeah, and then the buyer has the choice. We're going to walk away from it or we're going to accept it the way it is. I had the same thing happen, but it was 1/4 of a property was built over the build line. We had to go to the HOA and they had a board that had to sign off on this objection. And there was like 7 or 9 people that they had. And unfortunately, it was also a vacation home. So these people weren't local. It probably took 2 weeks to get everyone's signature. So we extended closing for that. In the buyer, yeah, the buyer can no, they can't back out, not for the survey. The seller can buy a new one. He doesn't deliver it, then he buys a new one. All right. E talks about. No? How many do you put? You don't put anything? Fine. That gives you right up till closing to object. As a good listing agent, they would never let that one go. Yeah. I know. I know. I see it all the time. Mm-hmm. Yeah. For his buyer, he doesn't put anything. So according to the contract, that buyer has right up to closing to do an objection. As a listing agent, your fiduciary to your sellers, have some days in there. You want to limit their time to object. No, this is for anything. This is going to be when you get all those exception documents, survey, yeah, HOA. Because if they say you can't do a short-term rentals, you want to be able to get out of that contract. Okay, abstract of title. Broker advises buyer to have the title, abstract of the title reviewed by a lawyer. It's going to be written by a lawyer, but that's the title company's lawyer. 2 isn't in a mandatory property owners association, homeowners association. Everyone has their own feelings about homeowners associations. We don't have zoning, so we have a lot of homeowners associations, more so than what they do up north or even in the Dallas area. You may need to explain to buyer what a homeowners association is. They have power. So either yes, it is, or no, it isn't. If it is in one, you're going to want to do the HOA addenda, reminding them that they are obligated to pay assessments. A homeowners association can't close on a home if you don't pay your assessments. There's all rules that go with that. Statutory tax districts, utility districts, if the I think there's a change to that. On the new contract, which is nice. On surveys, I'm backing up a little bit. Number 2, within blank days after effective date of this contract, buyer may obtain a new survey at buyer's expense. Buyer is deemed to receive the survey on the date of the actual receipt or the date specified in this paragraph, whichever is earlier. What's been added? If buyer fails to obtain this survey, buyer may not terminate the contract under paragraph 2B of the third-party financing addendum because the survey was not obtained. Takes away. If they don't get it, they can't use it as a way to get out of the contract. That would be objections. I'm sorry, I jumped back up to survey when I noticed there was a change. Right now, you have this last line says an addendum. They're gotten rid of those. They're crossing them out. There, for Tidewaters, there's an addendum if it abuts a body of water that's affected by tides. Addendum is still there. It still has to be used. They just taken it out of the contract. Property may be annexed. If they're not in the municipality, they could be annexed into the municipality if it's in an extraterritorial jurisdiction. Property located in a certificate service area of a utility service provider, water codes, public improvement districts. Y'all know what public improvement districts are? PID. It's a PID. That would be, let's say I'm a developer and I'm developing this area and I want to put in a water feature when you first drive in because it's going to be to the benefit of everyone lives there, but I can't afford it. So I go to the municipality and ask them if they will give me money to do this. So they say, yeah, we'll give you money to do this. And then everyone in that neighborhood is going to have to pay that money back. It comes through the taxes. Most of the time it's under the taxes. It really depends on how it was written. There are ones that not on the taxes and they're going to pay those separately. MUD's a different one. Yeah. No, that'd be a levy district, an LID. Post Oak. Post Oak is an public improvement district. They use the money to make it all nice now. With public improvement districts, let's say I do that, I get it, but I don't put that water feature in until phase 5, and I'm only on phase 2. So it's not going to show up on the tax records until they have to start paying it back. The gotcha is if the seller fails to disclose that, when they find out about it, in 2 years from now, by law, they can make that seller buy the property back. Bum, bum, bum. Plus, they can sue the seller and the agents for failure to disclose. Doesn't matter. You're talking about the seller? Yeah, if it doesn't matter if they had no knowledge of it. If it's there, they're responsible for it. It is a material fact on the property. You're going to look at the tax record first, and you'll see PID or improvement district, and then you could go look at it. HAR, they've done a lot of research for us. And here where you have city or ETJ, you have PID. So they've gone to the counties around us and they've tried to identify the PIDs and put it in on the agent full for us. So check there also. Tax record first, HAR second. If you ever run into one that's not on HAR, get a hold of HAR and let them know, get a hold of MLS, and they will add it. They'll research it and add it. That's public improvement district. There are transfer fees that the buyer may have to pay. Propane gas system service area. Now, this is not those silver tanks that you see outside of people's homes, especially in rural areas. Have y'all seen those? This is when you have a propane gas company that sits here. Then they pipe the propane to the homes. Instead of natural gas, they're using propane. There's not a whole lot of them in the state. Needs to be disclosed. There's an addendum for it. Notice of water level fluctuation. If they're next to a body of water that is used for irrigation or for drinking water, it may go up and down. We have 2 seasons in the state of Texas. You know what they are? Flood and drought. This came up and it's 5,000 acre feet at the impoundment's normal operating level. Trivia, do you know what 5,000 acre feet means? It means feet. Yeah. It would be 1 foot of water over 500 acres if you were to pull it all out. I didn't know what that meant, so I found out. This came up, years ago because the people in Austin bought on Lake Travis. Then we had the drought and the lake dried up. And they got all upset over that because they bought waterfront property. So they added it to the contract. And then change coming up. Number 11 is going to be certificate of mold remediation. If the property has been remediated from mold, seller must provide to buyer each certificate of mold damage remediation issued under, gives you the code, occupations code, during the last 5 years preceding the sale of the property. That is being added to the contract. Number 11 is now going to be 12, and this is your water districts. Okay, you have MUDs, you have LIDs, you have WCIDs, you have PUDs. They're all different entities. So municipal utility district from us, y'all saw my tax record, in Fort Bend MUD 121. They take care of the lighting, they take care of the walking trails, they take care of the utilities. So the one we have is really strong. That's what they're there for. When the developer is coming in and it's not on city water, they can go and ask for bonds to put the utilities in the property, and then the homeowners are going to pay it back. No, it could be multiple. Not necessarily. No. If you're in town, most likely not. If it's a old subdivision, probably not, because they can be paid off after so long. In Fort Bend County, MUDs, LIDs, Levy Improvement District, can be there. And you have to disclose that because it says the following notices have been given. And let's see, they've changed it. Starts to come together. In the new contract, required notices, the following notices have been given and are attached. And it gives examples now: utility, water, drainage, public improvement, anything with that. And I see way too often it says MUD. It's not a MUD, it's a WCID. It's the way they were made, the different reasons for it. Mhm. No, actually, it would be on the tax record. Yeah, see right here, jurisdiction, Fort Bend MUD 121. Didn't look at this one. If you look here, it is in MUD 70, Harris County MUD 70. And you have to disclose if it's in a drainage district also, anything with flood control. And you see here, Harris County Flood Control District. Okay, you want me to blow your mind and make it even more difficult for you? You don't have to disclose this one. If it's less than 75% of the entire area is when you have to disclose it. And this is the entire county. Now, you will see on occasion, there's one, I think it's Brazoria City Drainage District. So it's less than 75% in the entire area. That has to be disclosed. No, pretty safe if it says Harris County, Fort Bend County, Galveston County, drainage or control, flood control. You don't have to disclose that. It's 75% or more. That's fine. That's fine. There is a lot. I'm sorry. There is a lot to it. Check the tax records. Now, what they're adding, seller's failure to provide applicable statutory notices may provide buyer with remedies or rights to terminate the contract. If they don't disclose it, the buyer can terminate right up to closing with these. If the PID is not disclosed, they can sue them for specific performance, or they can make them buy the house back. Fun. Yes, yes, because those are material facts, and as a competent realtor, you are supposed to know that. Yep. Jeez. No, you're running it through me after you send it off to the seller. You run it through your coach beforehand. If you have a question about it, though, you can come to me. You can come to Michael, our broker. One of our coaches would help you out also. If you have a question, ask. All right, property condition. Access inspections and utilities. Sellers shall permit buyer and buyer's agent access to property at reasonable times. Buyer may have the property inspected by inspectors selected by buyer and licensed by TREC or otherwise permitted by law. Someone asked earlier if they could do inspections if they haven't given the earnest money an option. Yes, it's in the contract. You will have listing agents that tell you, no, you can't. We had one. They said you can't do inspections until they deposit the earnest money and option. No, look at paragraph 7A. It says that the buyer has the right to inspect the property. That's totally separate. Don't have a actually, yeah, I've seen a couple. Normally it's with cash. I saw one today that didn't have any, and it was built in 1978. So the only one it would possibly have, if it was 1977, would have been lead-based paint. Otherwise, it wasn't in a mud, it wasn't in a PID, it wasn't in an HOA. It's just a contract we had. Usually there is. Seller's disclosure notice. Either the seller has provided it before you make an offer, or the buyer has not gotten the notice, and how many days do they have to get the notice? Best practice, if you're a buyer's agent, get the notice before you go on their contract. If they don't and the buyer still wants to move forward, you want to make sure you've advised them to get it beforehand, and you have it in writing, give them 1 or 2 days. If once the seller gives the buyer the seller's disclosure, if it's after the executed contract, the buyer has 7 days to terminate the contract for any reason. So it's a free option. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Wait till we get further in the contract, and there's another case like that. That should actually be, but after paragraph 2, and it's like paragraph 10. Yeah. You want to get it beforehand. If they pay an option fee, let's say it's $500, and then the next day you get the seller's disclosure and there's something on there, and that buyer's like, I would have never written an offer on this property if I had known this. They have the exclusive right to back out of the contract, but they've already spent $500 for that exclusive right. Best practice, listing agents, get it, attach it on the MLS. Sure. Oh. Mhm. That agent was not geographically competent to be selling in that area. That is a TREC complaint. Get that seller's disclosure. Mm-hmm. Yeah. She probably really didn't know, but she is expected to know. When they do the clue report. Yep. So get it. Number B3, seller is not required to furnish the notice under the Texas Property Code. Will not have to give the notice. New construction ever lived in. When else? Foreclosure if it's bank owned. Nope, they have to give it. New construction if it's an estate, so it's being sold by the estate doesn't have to provide the seller's disclosure. If it's owned in a trust does not have to provide a seller's disclosure. They do have to give any material facts that they know of. That has to be disclosed. No, a lot of times it is. A lot of times there is somebody living in it. Maybe they can do life trust. And it's a way, my cousins did it with my aunt. It took it out of her name. So when she needed to go into a nursing home, it wasn't seen as assets of hers. And it makes it easier when she passes for it to automatically go to it's still in the trust. So the trust is going to be paying inheritance taxes. Talk to a CPA. Seller's disclosure, if it was built before 1978, they have to do the lead-based pay disclosure. Acceptance of the property as is means in the present condition of the property with any and all defects without warranties except for warranties of title. And then D1, buyer accepts the property as is. I don't know what that means because as is means as is. The way it looks like today. I'm accepting it like it is. That's separate. It's just the way it looks today. Well, it means you can still do the inspections and you can still negotiate for repairs. But I'm taking it the way I saw it. Oh, yeah, it's going to be the way I see it today. The way this room looks today is the way this room needs to look when I close on the property. I'm accepting it because I don't see anything in here that needs to be done. Now, number 2 is buyer accepts the property as is, provided seller at seller's expense completes the following specific repairs or treatments. Do not put in here per inspections or subject to inspections. This is specific. I walk into this house, I'm looking at the house and the back fence is falling down. Well, I will buy the house, but Mr. Seller, I want you to fix that fence before closing and you pay for it. That would be a specific repair. So I'm accepting it as is, except for that fence, and you're going to fix it before we close. No. If there, yeah. You can do an addenda, like a Word document, or if you can complete it in paragraph 11, special provisions, you could put it there. When we get to paragraph 11, we'll talk about that a little bit. I say be very specific. In here, you could put treatments. Houses to be professionally cleaned. Is that specific enough? I would say no. I'm the seller. You have in here home to be professionally cleaned before closing. My maid is coming this weekend. She's commercially engaged. She cleans it this weekend. Closing is in 40 days. Have I fulfilled my obligation of having the house professionally cleaned? I have. Now, would it be more specific to put in there home to be professionally cleaned 24 hours before closing? Yeah, be specific. There was one that said pool to be filled. What does that mean? And that's how it was written, pool to be filled. When the buyer did the walkthrough, they were extremely upset because the pool was still there. They wanted it filled in. The seller thought, fill it with water. You have to be specific. We walked into a house, and in the master bedroom, there was a hole in the wall in the sheetrock. So specific would be hole in master bedroom right beside the door to be repaired, texturized, and painted to match the room. Yeah, that would be a specific repair. So you don't put anything general in here. If you see something specific, yeah. No. If there is something they want done, save that negotiations from the inspection for later. This is something we're agreeing to up front. Yeah, because what if I come up with there's an HVAC problem and I'm saying I want the HVAC fixed, but I also want that fence that's falling down fixed. Yeah, if they've already agreed to it here, yeah. Sure. Lender required repairs. Who pays for those? This is when it's negotiable. That's the answer for everything. Everything's negotiable. This is when likely when they go out and do the appraisal, they see something that they say they need it fixed before they will appraise the house. I had a listing where the light in the garage that keeps the door from going down was broken. And the lender said they wanted that fixed. It was a safety issue. And it's negotiable. If it's more than 5% of the sales price, well, the buyer can terminate and walk away from the contract. Completion of repairs. I'm going to check, make sure. Oh, unless otherwise agreed in writing, seller shall complete all agreed repairs and treatments prior to closing and obtain any required permits. Repairs and treatment must be performed by persons who are licensed to provide such repairs or treatments. And if there's no license, someone who's commercially engaged. The fence. Once you're under contract, that seller can't fix the fence. They have to hire a fencing company to fix the fence unless they agree to it in writing. So it's like, yeah, I can go out there and I can hammer new boards on. If both people agree to that, it can be done. Otherwise, it has to be someone who is engaged, commercially engaged. What they added. Seller shall provide buyer with copies of documentation from the repair person showing the scope of the work and payment for the work completed. And seller shall arrange for any transfer of warranties. You used to have to put down for repairs, provide receipts. It's in the contract now. That receipt have to show that it's paid and what they did on the property. If the repairs can't be done, they can extend the closing up to 5 days if necessary. This catches people all the time. The homeowner will do the repairs. No, you can't do that. It has to be someone who's commercially engaged. I've even seen people go as far as saying that the repairs should be done by a certain company. That's kind of pushing it. Environmental matters, buyers advise there may be presence of wetlands, toxic substances, asbestos, other things. because you have to have a receipt. Yep, and that receipt needs to say who it is. And a good buyer's agent is going to trust but verify. There could be environmental matters. That is, there's a form you can use that gives the buyer the right to have environmental inspections. Doesn't mean they have to, but they have the right to do it. Residential service contracts. Are y'all familiar with residential service contracts? How about home warranties? Same thing. That's the official fancy name for them. Yes, if there is a amount in paragraph 7H, you must do the Texas 2513. That's disclosure of relationship with the home warranty. We have two companies that the office works with. They give us money for education and marketing, and we have to disclose that. Y'all, a home warranty? Yeah, if there's any money in here, we're asking the seller to pay for a home warranty. We have to let everyone know that these two companies give us money. Just little disclosure. Yeah. Yep, disclosure of relationship with a residential service. If you're getting one of these on the contract, it has to be disclosed. It's just letting them know that we don't want someone saying, okay, you did this and I got super home warranty and you did that because you're going to make money off of it. We're just letting them know that, hey, these two they do give us money. They are administered through the Texas Department of License and Regulation. It used to be under the purchase of residential service contract is optional. Similar coverage may be purchased from various companies authorized to do business in Texas. I like home warranties. I think they cover the seller just about as much as they're going to cover the buyer. You know, if they move in and suddenly that water heater gives out, well, yeah, it was not a brand new water heater. I've provided this for you. I had a seller who would not sell the house without having a home warranty. And the buyers did not want it. They did not want it on the contract. They said, I've worked with them. I don't want them. I don't think they would do anything. Bob insisted. He let title know that at closing, he would write them a check to purchase a home warranty for these buyers. He said that it was rural property, so there was a septic system. And these younger people were moving from town. And he said, they're going to mess up that septic system in the first year. So he wanted them to have something to fall back on. He was the same one. It was a multiple offer. We asked for highest and best, and he actually went with the highest offer, but then told him, I don't want that price. I want this price, the average of all the offers he got. But he actually accepted less money. Extremely, yeah, he's just that type of guy. Yeah. Yep. He's like, so he actually sold it at a lower price and did the home warranty. This is what the seller's going to pay to purchase that home warranty. $650, $700. That's what that line is for. That's what we're asking the seller to pay that much towards a home warranty. Had another one where we put that in there. We got the closing and the buyer's like, I don't want one. I don't like them. I don't want one. So we closed and then he asked for the check for that money. It's like, no, that money is only to purchase a home warranty. If you don't use it, you're not going to get a check. He was upset. And a bad agent. Oh, Brokers and sales agent, if, okay. Mhm. Title company usually sets it all up and they pay it. Yeah. If you're getting this, you need to give your buyers brochures of different ones and let them decide, and you let title know, and they'll get everything set up, and at closing, they'll pay for it out of these funds. It's a negotiation, but this is what we're asking. We're asking for $600 towards a home warranty. And seller is saying, I will agree to that. I will pay for it. If it goes more than that 600, then the buyer's going to pay for it. If it's less, make sure you add things to that home warranty to use up all the money. No, 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 no. That's just like an average price for them. Yeah, 600, 650. For 1 year. Yep. Okay. 8, broker and sales agent disclosure. If anybody in this transaction owns 10% or more of the property and their licensed agent, it has to be disclosed. Or if it's an entity that holds it, and I have that entity. Or if you're related to the buyer or seller, it has to be disclosed. Anyone comes down the hallway towards my office and they say, should I disclose? I'm going to say yes before you finish the statement. If you have to ask, disclose. I represented my nephew on his first home. I disclosed that he was my nephew. He was not legally my nephew because I wasn't legally married yet, but I'd known him since he was 5 years old. I'd rather have it out there and open so that they can't say, well, he had extra knowledge that I didn't have. Closing. When are you going to close? If you are, always check with the lender to make sure that they can close in that time. And that's if you're the buyer and the listing agent. They put a 30-day close on here. I'm going to be talking to that lender. Hey, they want to close by May 15th. Can your company do that? Normally it's 30 to 45 days. Don't ever close on a Friday or the last day of the month. Fridays, because if it doesn't fund, they don't own the house until Monday. So you've got a buyer that's sitting there with all of his stuff packed up in a truck and they can't get into the house. Sleeping in the truck. Yep. At closing, seller shall execute and deliver a general warranty deed. You're taking risk. If it doesn't fund, you won't have access to the house until probably Monday. Yeah. And there's a cutoff time for wires. So if you close in the afternoon, that cutoff time is like 2 or 3 in the afternoon, it's not going to fund. Yes. It's not usual that it happens, but it does happen. We've had one that took 7 days to fund. It's a bad lender. That's a very good question. They had it clear to close. Don't even remember. Oh, really? Because it didn't fund? With the lender. She paid for it. Yeah. It can also be something that changes at the last minute. Say on the contract, you put Mitch Rainey, and when we get to closing, it has to be changed to Mitchell W. Rainey Jr. That's my legal name. They're going to change that, and then it has to go to the lender for approval. Then it has to come back to the title company, and then it could possibly fund. That could be a reason. They have to deliver a general warranty deed. They have to pay it in good funds. They can't pay cash, by the way. Then not too many title companies will allow you to walk in with a bucket full of money. And people try it. Seller and buyer shall execute all notices given. Private transfer fees is governed by the Texas Property Code. Possession. When are they going to take possession of the home? When it closes and funds, or are they doing a lease back? As a seller, maybe I don't want to move everything out of the house when you may not close and fund. So I want 3 days to move out. Or upon closing and funding. If the house is vacant, normally they're going to have, upon closing and funding, they get possession of the home. If they're doing a lease back, consult their insurance agent to find out if the insurance will even cover a temporary lease. Some of them don't. You have to be in the house. Okay, this is what I was talking about earlier when I said that this should be under paragraph 2. Remember when we talked about everything that's included and stays with the house? Smart devices. So they put it down here. This means devices that connect to the internet and enable remote use, monitoring, or management of property. Items identified as non-realty addendas or items in a fixture lease assigned to the buyer at the time seller delivers possession. Those Ring cameras that you can plug into the wall and set on the mantle, they stay. It's security. Down here is where it says at closing, that seller is going to give you a written passwords and usernames for all of those systems. And they're going to terminate those from their service. Best practice as a listing agent, ask the seller to go ahead and change the usernames and passwords to one thing. I know everyone in here, y'all have a different username and password for every single thing you have, right? Yeah, no, most people have the same one for everything, including your bank accounts. So change it to one right when they're doing the listing, makes it a lot easier. And then you're going to recommend the buyer right after closing, they go in and change those so that this person can't use the ring lock and walk into the home. See, that's what I mean. That should be under paragraph 2, don't you think? That's a committee issue. Yeah. You need to get on the forms committee for broker lawyer committee. It has been. It's already been brought up, but they still haven't chosen to do that. Then you get paragraph 11, special provisions, where you've told not to write anything. They've defined it. This paragraph is intended to be used only for additional informational items. An informational item is a statement that completes a blank. We talked about the seller paying for title, and it says both of them are checked. This completes it. 50-50. Seller and buyer shall split the title 50-50. You can put the tax ID in there if it's real big or if there's multiple of them. Real estate brokers, sales agents are prohibited from practicing law and shall not add to, delete, or modify any provision of this contract unless drafted by a party to this contract or the party's attorney. Anything that's going to complete a blank, you could put in here. But you can't put anything that says if this, then that. So if I'm saying, if y'all don't do this, then I can walk away from the contract. That's taking away somebody's rights. I've seen people put in here, which is totally illegal. Earnest money is non-refundable. Earnest money is defined. It is always refundable. If it completes a blank, you can put it in here. If it doesn't complete a blank, ask. Come and ask somebody. Your clients can give you stuff to write in there. I prefer for them to send me like PDF with what they want, and I'm going to attach it to the contract and add signatures to it. There's no question that it wasn't written by me. This came directly from the seller, or this came directly from their attorney. Well, you're going to put that in paragraph 21. No, I'm sorry, 22. Yes. Yes. If you put anything in there and it is from the buyer, make sure you have documentation. I would add it to paragraph 22. No, you as the agent. Yeah. No. If you have anything like that, ask one of the coaches, myself, the broker. Settlement and other expenses. This paragraph is where the buyer is asking the seller to chip in so much money to cover their closing cost. This would be, oh, I always ask if I get a contract and they're asking for closing costs, it's like, why? Is it they can't afford the home and they need money towards that? Maybe it's a buyer who knows that they're going to have to buy a washer, dryer, and refrigerator, so they want to keep the cash in their hand. We just got a contract on a listing, and the seller had told us he was leaving the washer, dryer, and refrigerator. And Dan asked me, well, do I put that on the MLS? I said, no, let's hold it. Because if we get into negotiations, they want X dollars and they want closing costs. Well, how about if we go ahead and throw in the washer, dryer, and refrigerator? The seller was already willing to do that. It's a way, it's negotiations. Well, when they ask for closing cost here, this is the seller's going, you've got the sales price here, and then they're going to ask for closing costs, maybe $10,000. So that 350 sales price just went down to 340. And I always, I want to know, why are they asking for that? Is it they need the money to be able to purchase the home? Are they trying to keep cash in their pocket? And if they're saying they're going to keep cash in the pocket, that's when you can say, well, we'll keep it at the 350 and we'll throw in the washer, dryer, and refrigerator and not give you closing cost. It's a way to negotiate. Yeah. Sometimes they also use it to buy down the rate. They've got a 7% interest rate. They can pay money, extra money, and buy it down to 6.5. Doesn't make a huge difference. No, it's going to be dollars on their payment or less. Yeah. Yeah. Some people can't do that. There are certain expenses that a buyer is prohibited for paying by FHA and VA and Texas Veterans Land Board. You also want to check with the lender to make sure that the amount they're putting in here is the amount they're able to receive. Anything, if you put $20,000 in here and closing costs are only $10,000, that extra $10,000 stays with the seller. It's again one of those situations where the buyer's not going to get a check if they don't use all the money. And then it talks about the appraisal fees, normal expenses to the buyer. Yes. Yeah, sellers can, I know our seller thought it was kind of sneaky. Like, yeah, you're going to offer me the list price, but then you want 12,000 closing cost. Why didn't you just make an offer for 340? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Some people don't put it together. And you have to have a good agent that looks at it and says, yes, they're offering 340, but they want 10,000 to closing costs. So you're actually only getting 330 for this home. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You can ask. And great to explain it. I don't particularly care for sellers' contributions. Like if you can't afford the house, you can't afford the house. And it talks about if any expenses don't match it, they're not going to get the money back. It's something to look at. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And also, if you don't have anything in here and you've got 3 other offers and 2 of them are asking for closing costs, does your offer look a little bit better when maybe paragraph 3 is the same? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, you can. You can always. Mm-hmm. That's just, I didn't get a reason for it. It's one of those, if it's multiple offer situations, it can be an automatic no. If you're in a more of a buyer's market, you can ask for a little bit of closing cost. Talks about prorations. They're going to prorate the interest and interest, regular periodic maintenance fees, your taxes. They're going to pay for the amount of time the seller has the house, and the buyer's going to pay for the amount of time they have the house. Taxes are done on last year's taxes. Someone called me this week upset because the title company was using 2024 tax rate when it should have been 2023. Taxes aren't even assessed until October. So I knew that wasn't true. They always going to use the previous year. Uh-huh. Well, they're going to prorate it. And if it's different, let's say they get the tax, they've prorated at 500 each person for $1,000 total. And then they get the tax bill at the end of the year and it's 1,200. Then this buyer and seller agree to negotiate how they're going to make up the difference. Probably. And you also have to realize sometimes it's prorated, like our home, we have homestead exemption, we have 65 plus exemption, and we have disabled vet. But what you're looking at on our tax record isn't going to be what it is for someone like you. You may have homestead, but I don't know if you have, are you 65? No. Are you a disabled vet? So you're not going to have those. Those are both going to come out. Your tax is going to be higher than what it shows on my tax record. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Paragraph 14 is casualty loss. If the property is destroyed by flood, fire, any type of natural disaster, the seller can bring the home back to the way it was. So they can extend closing. They can have the insurance company assign the funds to the buyer. So insurance says, I'm going to fix the roof, but we can't get it done till after closing. But we agree once it's done, we'll write a check to the new buyer. It's covered in the seller's insurance, but it's going to be done after closing and buyer's going to get the proceeds. Okay. Or the buyer may terminate the contract and walk away. When we had Harvey, we had people trying to terminate the contract because the neighborhood flooded and they couldn't get to the house. That's not a casualty loss. You can't terminate because of that. 15 is default. The buyer or seller could be held in default. They agree to go to mediation. Oh, also, this is where it says that they can terminate the contract and get their earnest money back as liquidated damages. If the seller fails to comply, contract will be in default of the law. They can terminate the contract, give the earnest money back, or they could actually sue them for specific performance. If they can't come to agreements, everybody's agreeing to mediate here. Whoever loses is going to pay attorney fees. Yeah. 18, escrow, not a party to the contract. Yep. 18 is escrow. The escrow agent is not a party to the contract. They're an outside. Expenses at closing. All the money they're putting for earnest money is first going to go to their closing, to whatever they're cashed down. If it doesn't cover all, if it's less, then they're going to get the difference. Upon termination of this contract, either party or the escrow agent, or more than closing, let's say more than closing. You put down 10,000 earnest money and closing was only 5,000. Yeah, they're not gonna lose their earnest money if they close. Demand upon termination of contract, either party or the escrow agent can demand the release of the earnest money. Let's say it's you terminate in the option period. You're going to send the release of earnest money. So you're asking the seller to release that earnest money. It is truly goes back to the buyer. If the seller decides, no, I don't like the fact that you terminated in the option period, and I'm not going to give you the earnest money back. And it happens. Freedom D, any party who wrongfully fails or refuses to sign a release acceptable to the escrow agent within 7 days of receipt of the request will be liable to the other party for damages, earnest money, reasonable attorney fees, and all the cost of the suit. So that $1,000 that they're not going to give because they're mad can be very quickly a lot of money. There was a judge who awarded, I think it was the seller. They charged the buyer for the earnest money, the court costs and everything, and awarded them the cost of carrying that home. So all their utilities, insurance, escrow, all of that. So a couple of $1,000 quickly gets to be a lot of money. And when you have someone who is truly in the wrong, you read them this paragraph and then, oh, yeah, I'll do it. Okay, notice this. Escrow agents' notices will be effective when sent in compliance with paragraph 21. Notice of obligation to demand will be deemed effective upon receipt by the escrow agent. That'll be important in paragraph 21. Representations, all covenants, representations, warranties of this contract survive after closing. If the seller is a foreign person, according to the tax code, the buyer will have to keep funds back to pay taxes. It must be disclosed. You're going to want to refer them to a CPA and let title know about it. They keep that money. Yeah. Seller is going there. The government's going to get their money. This would be only if the seller's a foreign person. Yeah. And I didn't know it. If it's not disclosed and that the taxes aren't paid, the government's going to come after that buyer to pay those taxes. It's like they're going to get their money. They just don't want a seller who owes taxes on the sale of the house skipping the country and not having their money. It must be disclosed by the seller and the listing agent. Normally your title company is also, they ask. Mhm. On the listing agreement, it asks that question. And on the list agreement, it also says that we're not liable for anything that the seller lies to or does not know about. Mhm. Yep. About foreign persons, paragraph 21I. That's good. Yeah, the first couple of times you come to a class like this, you don't know the questions to ask. And then once you get into it, paragraph 21, notices, all notices from one party to the other must be in writing and are effective when mailed to, hand delivered at, or transmitted by fax or electronic transmission as follows: the buyer's information and the seller's information. Remember up here when we talked about release of earnest money, it says it'll be given to whatever's on here. You want that information, and you will get listing agents who say, I'm not going to give that. I don't want them calling each other. Whose contract is it? They have every right to talk to each other. And you've got things in the contract that are time is of the essence. You can't get a hold of that listing agent or that buyer's agent. You can go to the buyer. Sometimes you want to send it to both the buyer and the listing agent. One thing I wasn't aware of, and there's a real estate lawyer out of Dallas who has a Facebook page. He has some great videos on there. I wish I could remember his name. He talked about if there's nothing on here and you just have your information, if it goes to court, court's going to use you to do all the communication. Yeah, no, thank you. Uh-huh. Yeah. And if it busts out, title company is going to send it to whoever they have the information to. Do you want to be responsible for that earnest money going to somebody? No, get both people. And if you get kickback, you can refer back to the contract, and you can also refer to Legal 2, which has a whole chapter about paragraph 21. And there have been times, well, where as a broker, we've needed to get a hold of someone. We go here to look for it. Do I need to contact that seller directly? I can't get a hold of the agent, can't get a hold of the broker. Go to the seller. Yes. Your info. You can put your email address on there. Yeah. But make sure you have both. Yeah, you can do that and yours as the agent for both sides. No, for whichever side you represent. Yeah. So then they're gonna send it to the buyer at this contact, and they're gonna send you a carbon copy of it. Same thing with the listing side. Okay. If you don't have that, it's not going to meet compliance. Paragraph 22 is for addenda only. Common ones you're going to see, third-party financing. Addendum for property subject to mandatory membership in a property owners association. Buyer's temporary residential lease, don't do it. Okay. This would be the buyer moves into the property before closing. Don't do that. Yeah, don't do that. Yeah. You don't want someone moves into the property and they can't close, they have no place else to go, they stay in the property, and then you become a landlord and you're going to have to go through court to get this person kicked out. We've done it once, and it was a case where the seller, once we got to escrow, she had forgotten that she was married, and the divorce decree said that her ex-husband had to agree to sell the house and what his proceeds were going to be. Now, in her defense, she'd been divorced 25 or 30 years. Didn't even know where her ex-husband was. So they had to stop everything. and hire someone to track him down in California and then get him to agree to what split he was going to get and sell the house. So the seller said, buyers, it's my fault. I will let y'all move in early as a buyer's residential lease. But otherwise, don't do it. Loan assumptions, FHA are assumable. Some conventional loans are assumable. VA are assumable. You may see these. I've seen a couple just because of the interest rates right now. I'm a veteran. I use my GI Bill. So I can have my interest rate right now is 3 point something. You're buying my house and your interest rate is going to be 7. But if you want to assume my loan at 3%, that's when you'd be doing it. Okay. There's other rules that go with that. One thing you need to understand when you're doing a loan assumption, they're only assuming what's left on the loan. So our house, we owe right at 100,000 on it. So if you purchased it, you're only going to get 3% on that 100,000. You're still going to have to get a loan for the 300,000 because I'm not selling my house below 400,000. It gets confusing. They're going to be both at the same time. No, you're going to pay 3% on the 100,000 and then pay 7% on the, yeah. That's something that you can ask a lender for. That makes my eyes cross. Mhm. Not all loans are assumable. There's rules that go with it. And very rare, very rare. What? My VA benefits? Yes. Yeah. If like if he was a veteran and he was to assume my loan, then I can use it again. If you assume my loan and you're not a veteran, I can't use it until you pay off that portion. Yeah. There's some rules that go with that. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, I used my VA loan, my first house. I don't know why we didn't do it on the second house. I think we had a bad lender. But we still got 3%. Addendum for sale of other property. We see that one. And this is when I want to buy your house, but I can't afford it until I sell my house. Okay. Addendum for reservation of oil and gas. We talked about that in paragraph 4. Backup contract. How many backup contracts can you have? 1. Yeah. That is, I have a contract. I'm in first place. Your buyer really wants the house, so they're going to write a contract on it. And if this one busts out, let's say they terminate during the option period, yours automatically becomes effective. I have a contract. So we've executed this contract. You come in as another buyer and say, I really want that house. I'm going to write you a offer, a contract. And then if this person fails to close, they terminate during the option, they can't get it financing. When it terminates, you automatically go into first place. There's no more negotiations. It's already done. So you're just automatically in first place. You can only have one of those because you are actually going to execute a second contract that buyer is going to have to pay earnest money and option money at the time they do it. If they terminate, they'll get their earnest money back if they never become in first place, but you always lose your option money. We see it. We see it. Yeah, when we have, well, right now we have low inventory. Show those houses that are in option period. Show those houses that say pending continue to show. Show the houses that are pending if they'll let you. What if it falls through? If I like it, I'm in first place. We're not going to go back to negotiating. We've already negotiated, and that's my house if that first one can't close. And in that backup offer, it says how long they'll wait. Well, maybe I know they have a 21-day finance period. So I'm gonna wait 22 days. If it doesn't bust out in 22 days, my contract automatically. Mhm. Yep, yep. When you execute yeah, that'll be a complete contract like we've looked here, executed everything. If it doesn't fall through. Mhm. Yeah, they're gonna get their earnest money back. No, because the option, I'm purchasing an option and that option starts when it's executed. So I've got a 10-day option and maybe it's 2 weeks before it busts out. And when it busts out, then we're gonna amend the effective date, the execution date, and I'm gonna get those other 10 days. So for that $100, I'm getting 3 weeks of option. I can back out at any time. Yes. When we have such low inventory, people do say, I really want this house. So, and it might not work out. We know with interest rates, people aren't always getting their loans. So I'm going to take the chance. Yep. Yeah. And you pray. And also, it shouldn't, but it gives that seller some power, I guess, a little bit more hands, because I know, oh, you want me to fix the fence and you want me to paint? Well, no, I've got someone else who's already got a contract waiting. So no, I'm not going to do that. Well, then fine, I'm going to terminate. Good. This one here's offering me more money. Oh, okay. Addendum for coastal area property. So if the property. Mhm, mhm. Yep. Yes. Yes. The the amended execution date or effective date. Mhm. Right. As listing agent, I'm going to send you a document stating that first one, and now you're under contract. We're going to do an amendment to the effective date. So it was executed April 1st. Then we're going to amend it to April 18th. And then you have your 10-day option or your 21 days for, you got it. Mhm. Yeah, good. Thank you. Oh, okay. If the property abuts coastal area property, you're going to do an addendum. You must have written permission to do hydrostatic testing. That is when they're going to test the plumbing to see if there's any leaks. When they do that, there's a chance if there is some type of leak, it can make it worse. So this form here, they negotiate if it messes up, who's going to pay for it? Or the buyer says, I'll pay up to $1,000. Yeah, and something happens. Yeah. With the hydrostatic testing, it's gotten better. They used to pressurize the lines to see, does the pressure go down? Emily, she's done it on new construction and said twice they found that there was debris in the plumbing lines. Normally we wouldn't do it unless the home was older, but after that it's like, maybe it's something you should consider, but it has to be agreed upon by the seller. Okay, addendum concerning right to terminate due to lender's appraisal. This can only be used with conventional lending. I talked about the environmental assessment. This is the buyer just asking for permission to do inspections. They don't have to, but they have permission to do it. Seller's temporary residential lease, we do see those. The seller wants a couple of more days to get out. It can be no longer than 90 days though. Short sale addendum, the homeowner is taking, the lender is taking less than what the homeowner owes on the property. If the property is located seaward of the Gulf Intercoastal Waterway. Mhm. Buyer's temporary residential lease, we recommend you don't. Yes, it comes before closing. Yeah, we're under contract and my buyer wants to move in today and we're going to close next month. Seller's temporary residential leases, we're closing the day and the seller's going to stay a couple of days. Yep, you're going to charge extra amount of dollars. Oh, lead-based paint, if the house is built before 1978, you must do this form. If it's a propane gas services area, you have to do this form. If they are somebody renting the property when you go under contract, you're going to do the 1953. If they have any fixtures that are leased, you're going to do the fixture leased in 1954, and it's going to be in paragraph 4. Oh, those are the numbers, the TREC numbers for the forms. Like this one here is 20-7. Yeah, it's just a way for you to look it up. Sometimes they're not what you think they should be named. They're not always named that. Hey, there's one addendum that's used a lot that's not on here. Which addendum is it that we use a lot? They have never listed it here. Non-realty. Yep, you got it. Yeah, and we have asked for probably 20 years for TREC to add it. I don't know why they've never added. Yeah, this is when they're going to purchase or they're going to get personal property, refrigerator, washer, dryer, yeah, lawn equipment, something like that. The non-realty addendum. 1406. No, 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 you can look them up easily. Oh, yeah. Addendum is adding to the contract. Amending is changing the contract. Most addendas are done with the contract. Amendments are done after the execution. These addendums are going to be saved here. Oh, we're under option period. We negotiate that they're going to do X, Y, and Z repairs. So you're going to amend the contract that they will do those. Or we're going to do, instead of repairs, we're going to drop the price by $5,000. So we're going to amend the contract, paragraph 3, to whatever the new sales price is. No, you have an amendment for it. 1 page. Yeah, these are most of them are 1 page. Nope, nope. Amendment. Yeah, we both agreed to. Yeah, the buyer and sellers have agreed to this, so we're going to amend the contract. Please don't ever, once the document is signed, don't go back and cross things out and try to initial it. Do an amendment. It keeps it a lot easier and it keeps it very clean for everything. Yeah, for everything, there's amendment. And the amendment to contract can be used for multiple documents. The contract, the third-party financing, you can use the same form. If there's attorneys, if the buyer has an attorney, you're going to put the name down here and you're going to run. If the seller has an attorney, also, you're going to put the seller's attorney information here and you're going to run faster. It becomes a challenge. All right, and we get to to page 9, last real page of the contract. When is it executed? You got it. When it has been signed and communicated. So as the buyer's agent, I send it over. It's got the buyer's signature on it. Then the seller says, yes, I'm going to agree to this. The seller signs it. I'm going to call you, the buyer's agent, and say, we have an executed contract. It's in your email. I'm going to execute it. It cannot be executed until they've communicated it back to the other person. Page 10, which is really not part of the contract, but TREC requires the information. Listing broker, the information goes here. Buyer broker, information goes here. If we're the listing agent, of course, it's gonna make Keller Williams Memorial 9000862. If you go to the MLS right here, here's all that information you need to put on there. So fill out both sides, that's what I'm saying. You know your information. If you're a buyer's agent, you can click on it and here's the listing information. Yes, if it's in-house, which is intermediary, everything goes on the right side. Yep. Okay. I speak your language after yesterday. Okay. So that is the 1 to 4. On paragraph 20, when we talked about foreign person, the only changes are getting rid of taxes. They're just saying federal requirements. And otherwise, those are the big changes. Okay. Which page on the? Oh, the page 10. Oh, yes. This is whatever is on the MLS. Okay, that's going to change because our compensation will no longer be on the MLS. It'll be in a, we don't know. Okay, I wanted to show you all the third-party financing addendum because it is changing. All right, page 1. If it's conventional financing, you're going to get all this information from your lender. Number 1, first mortgage loan amount is going to be whatever's in paragraph 3B. Sometimes they may split that up between 2 mortgages, and that would be if I don't want to pay PMI. Maybe I'm doing 2 loans, so I can bypass that. But if it is the case, 1 and 2 need to equal whatever's in paragraph 3B. You're hardly ever going to deal with that. So whatever is in 3B is going to go here. How many years are they financing it for? What's the interest rate that they're looking for? How long is that interest rate going to be for? Is it the full 30 years, or you know what adjustable mortgage is? Maybe it changes after 5 years or something like that. Yes. No, you don't worry, but that's the reason why they may do a second mortgage. So they don't have to pay the PMI. If you're a veteran, you don't pay PMI at all. Yay. Yeah. Uh-huh. Or if you put enough down on the property. So that's A, conventional financing. B is Texas Veterans Loan. That is available for, it's still the same qualifications as a VA loan, except for it's done through the state of Texas. You must have lived in the state of Texas for at least 6 months or be a resident prior to joining the service. FHA, section 9 out of 10 times is going to be 203B. You can get that from the lender. How much are they financing? 3B. How many years, at what interest rate, for how many years? That's in the paragraph 3B of the contract. The sales price, yeah, A is cash, B is financing. Yeah. Yeah, whatever the financing is, how much our financing is going to go on here. No, that's the VA. For me to qualify, or for the veterans, Texas Veterans Loan. For me to qualify that, I have to be an honorably discharged veteran, and I must have lived in the state for a minimum of 6 years. No, that's the Texas part of it. Yes, yes, sir. Yeah, you're just taking that information and putting it on here. Yes. Sometimes if you're a veteran and you've moved to the state of Texas, you may not even know that exists. So as a good realtor, you're going to ask those questions. Are you a veteran? Do you know about the Texas veterans? Have you used your GI benefits? You're going to get with the lender who's real familiar with those. It's going to save me money. Oh, yeah. Basically, it does the same thing. You get a little bit even better interest rate than what you do on a VA loan. And normally with a VA loan, it's about 1% below prime. Yeah, you can do, yeah, with VA loans, I can finance 100% of it. Sometimes, but it helps. When I bought my first house, I'd gotten out of the military, went to school, just got out of school. I had about $500. So I was able to get into the house with zero down and use that money for closing costs. There's still some fees the veteran's going to have to pay, but they don't have to worry, they don't have to do the down payment, which is going to hurt. Yeah, as a FHA and VA, they cannot pay commissions, compensation. With these new things coming out, they are looking into it. The Veterans Administration are looking into it now. Lenders are also looking into maybe, yeah, if they can change the lending rules to be able to tie that into the loan, but it still ought to be worked out, hashed out. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff that goes with that. USDA, that was developed to kind of move people from the congestion of the cities out to the outskirts. So it's certain regions that qualify for the USDA, and it changes. It can change every 6 months, at least every year. So if you're out someplace, ask the lender, does this qualify for a USDA loan? They may say yes, they may say no. It's going to help your client out a little bit. Reverse mortgages. I have never, ever seen a reverse mortgage done through a realtor. So I've never seen one of those come across my desk. Other financing. This was put in 2022, mainly for hard money loans. And they're getting a loan. And this is the only place where you have to put down the name of the lender. Yes, if you're getting a loan from mom and dad. If you're getting a hard money loan, you have to put down the name. And then how much is it? How much time do they have to pay it back? What's the interest rate? Origination fees. And buyer does or does not waive all rights to terminate the contract under paragraph 2B of this. Sometimes they will be going for a hard money loan, but they may have cash. So if I don't get this loan, I can go ahead and pay cash for it. This is where the changes are, and they're very good changes for this form. Buyer approval is paragraph 2A. This is how long does the buyer have to qualify for the loan? I'm going to send all of my tax returns, my finances, everything, and that lender's going to look at it and they're going to say, you qualify for the loan. Normally it's 20, 21 days for that time. What has changed is to be able to terminate this contract, buyer giving seller notice of termination and a copy of the written statement from the lender setting forth the reasons for the lender's determination if buyer terminates the contract under this provision. It used to be they could just say, I didn't get what I wanted, so I want to terminate. Now they're saying, yeah, you can still do that, but the lender has to tell the seller why. What if they never send all their paperwork in? Then they did not follow the contract. For not doing it? Paragraph 15. Yeah, that says about default. The earnest money, yeah. Yeah, if they didn't do it right, or they can say, no, we're not allowing you to terminate. You don't have any rights to terminate. If you don't close, well, then we're going to sue you for specific performance. Same time as the offer. Anything that's in paragraph 21. 22. Anything that is checked on here goes all at the same time. You don't execute it until you have everything. B is a property approval. There are two different things. This is the buyer being able, the lender saying, yeah, Mr. Buyer, you have the credit score, you have the money, I'm going to give you the loan. And then B is the property. Is the property insurable? Does it appraise for the amount? Mhm. We're just working on this form. It has to be appraised and they have to have it back at least 3 days before closing. Yes, this is going to be the lender appraisal. Well, it's the lender who's going to send out the appraiser, but it is the buyer's appraisal. They're paying for it. Mhm. Yep. Normally they're going to wait till they get through those things because the buyer is going to pay for the appraisal. So they don't want them terminated during the option period or finding out that the buyer doesn't qualify before the buyer adds this extra expense. If they terminate and they've already done it, it's going to come out of their earnest money. Yeah, before you spend any more money. But with the appraisal, if it doesn't appraise, only the lender can say they're not going to loan on the property. That's being financed. Okay. Want to go deeper?
Yeah.
Okay. With the appraisal, let's say it's a $200,000 home, but you're putting 100,000 down. It appraises for 180,000. That lender could say, I'm still going to give you the loan because if you default on it, I already have $100,000 equity, even though it didn't appraise for the total sales amount. So that's why only the lender can back out under this paragraph. The buyer can't say, well, it didn't appraise for 200,000. I'm not going to purchase the home. No, you can't do that. Only the lender can say, I'm not going to loan on the property. You buy the house. No, you're going to still get a lender, but he's going to give you, he's still lending 100,000. But even it appraised at 180,000, the lender knows if you default, I have equity in this home, $80,000 equity. The buyer could be going into the home upside down. But as a lender, I don't care if you're upside down because I'm getting my money. I'm going to loan you 100,000. If you default in the first 30 days, I can turn around and sell this property for at least 180,000. So I get my 100,000 back plus $80,000. Oh, damn. I'm sorry. It gets confusing. Yeah. Okay, we've agreed to pay 200,000 in the contract. Yeah. So you've got your 200,000. The lender is going to give their, let's say, okay, the buyer is going to put $100,000 down. That's in paragraph 3A. So all the lender is lending is 100,000. Okay. Now, if the appraisal comes in and it only appraises for 180,000, okay. And if you default on it, that lender is still going to make $80,000 when he sells the property again. So the lender's only risking 100,000. Yeah. The, yeah, not a whole lot. Not a whole lot. You can always negotiate. Yes. And then we have that other form, the appraisal addendum, which is a whole different class. Mhm. The- Separate. Yeah. No, you're still going to buy the house for 200,000. That doesn't change. But it doesn't appraise. Only the lender can say, I'm not going to loan. So let's say you weren't putting this down. You're putting nothing down here. And it appraised at 80,000. That lender says, I'm not going to risk on this house. I'm not going to loan on it. Then the buyer can walk away. But I'm saying if they're putting down this 100,000 and it appraised at 180, that lender could say, yeah, I'm still going to give you the loan. Yeah, because I'm going to get my money. Yep. It's in the contract. You can try to negotiate. And a lot of times listing agents don't realize that. And you'll call them and say, hey, your house didn't appraise. You need to drop the price by 180,000. And they're like, oh, shoot. Yeah, I need to do that. Well, no, you don't. The lender may still be lending on it. There's another form that covers that, but that's in a different class because it'll really confuse the hell out of you. Mhm. Yeah. No, 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 because sometimes you're doing 200,000 here and your appraisal comes in at 210,000. So right away, the buyer is going into the property with equity, $10,000 in equity on that home. No, no. But if it appraises at 180, well, yeah, I'm telling them that. And maybe they'll negotiate for it different. But I'm saying the buyer can only walk out when the lender says they're not going to loan. Mm-hmm. Normally, you're just going to say, well, what will the seller do? Will the seller come down? Will they split the difference? Maybe drop it from 200,000 to 190. And sometimes they'll do that. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. It still has to appraise. It still has to appraise. It all depends on what they're putting down on the house. And sometimes buyers would go in with these higher offers, knowing it wouldn't appraise. And then well, they would know they'd be able to get out of the house, or they knew they could negotiate it down. But if you overprice a house, you're probably not going to get showings. Okay. Okay. Think. Then paragraph 4 is only for use with FHA and VA. And it says that it must appraise for the sales value. So in this line, I would put that 200,000. If it comes in anything under 200,000, that veteran can walk away. It has to appraise for sales amount. Doesn't mean they can't negotiate. Doesn't mean the VA veteran can't bring 20,000 to the table. But it's saying if it doesn't appraise, I can walk away. That more or less, yeah. I could, well, not more. I mean, if it appraises for more, I'm going to go ahead and buy the house. I'm walking in with equity. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yes, I can say I'm not going to purchase this home. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's even if the lender would still give me the loan because I'm putting 100,000 down. It didn't appraise as a veteran or FHA, I can walk away. Paragraph 5 is what gives us permission to talk to those lenders, both the buyers and the selling agent. Sometimes when you have lenders at our state, you have to send them this and maybe highlight that part on there so they will give you. As a listing agent, they're not going to give you all the details, but they can tell you where it is in the process. All right. That's all I have for you.